Hello, my friends from YouTube. We're gonna get right into making our little bag. We stitch one panel and then we do the same thing to the second panel. Stitch, stitch, stitch. And now to cut the interface. Make sure your top is pressed nicely and neat, and I press my seams open. Take it to the heat press. When I'm doing the heat press, I make sure that everything is nice and straight, that there are no threads anywhere, neither in the main panel, heat press, nor on the interface, because that would be a disaster if we put a thread in there, especially if it's a dark color. Oh my lord, then you cannot get that thread out. So it has to be clean. I am so glad I have this heat press. If it wasn't for this heat press, it would have taken me forever to do this bag, because pressing the interface with an iron takes a very long time, especially in order for it to be completely adhered to the fabric. flat quarter not long enough, so we're gonna cut it. So it could be the same width. I mean the same length. Cut the salvage. Then trim it really good over here on the edge. And do 13. $13. This is for the lining. So I want to add a little bit of this little piece up here. Now, let's double check. Perfect. Now we put it like this. We are going to take it to the press. So this is the lining. So after we press the lining and we have already pressed the main fabric, then we're going to face right sides together and we're going to stitch on each end. One over here, one over there. So after we stitch each end, I'm going to press the seam open. This is the top of the bag. I did not put the interfacing on this bag in the seam, but I have a little video at the end of this one that is going to show you what it looks like with the interfacing on the seam. It looks very professional because this is the top of the bag and it looks very nice when you put interface. Here I'm just marking the little opening that I'm going to be using for the strings, and I usually leave like 1.5 inches since both of them are going to be, it's going to be like 4 pieces going through there, so I want it to be big enough that they don't have any issues, you know, opening and closing. So I mark 3 inches from the line and then I mark 1.5 from the bottom up. And this is also the time where we mark the opening for turning the bag, which is on the lining part of it. So as you can see, I have left those openings on the side. I've sewn all around it, but I left those 3 openings, 2 on the main fabric and a bigger one on the lining so I can turn the bag through there. I think that's really small. I might have to open that a little bit more. Now we're going to do the boxing of the corners. So I'm trying to figure out how big I'm going to make the gussets. I decided to start with the side that has the contrasting fabric on it. That way when you turn the bag, you can see a little bit of the contrasting fabric on the outside of the fabric, because if I make it too big here, then when I turn the bag, all the contrasting fabric will be on the bottom of the bag. So we don't want that. At least I didn't want that. I wanted to show a little bit of the contrasting fabric. So after I'm done with all the marking of the little boxes, I open them up. I trim the little ears so that I can have the seam open up, and it will be easier to sew them. And then I attach the lining with the main fabric. I'm going to sew that together. So watch carefully how I go about making those match. So that way when when the person has the bag, the lining is not going to be loose. It's actually going to be sewn to the main fabric. And that's a technique that I learned from one of the Jenny Beyer patterns. And I said, well, I'm always going to be doing the bags like that, the ones that I can, because some are too small and you cannot do it. But the bigger ones, so that you don't have the lining loose in there, this is the kind of technique that she uses. And I thought it was a great technique to keep them together. So if one day they have to wash it, or you're looking for things in there, that lining is not loose. And it gives the bag a little bit more body. It stands up a little bit better. I just like the technique overall. I think it's awesome. Sometimes I forget to cut those little tips, and I forget to open the seam, but it's definitely better when you open the seam and you match them together, because it's a lot easier to sew. It's not as bulky. Or you can put one seam to one side and the other seam to the other side. But I like to open them up. I feel like they nest together a little bit better. So keep watching. We'll learn from everybody. So if you cannot figure it out yet, it did take me a little while when I was reading it, how to figure it out, how to do this. So the seams face each other. So you put the seams together, like kissing. And the bottom of the line that goes across, also has to match. So you get the right corner of the lining with the right corner of the outside fabric, of the main fabric. And you make them match. You put them facing each other, and then you go and you stitch, which I'm going to show you in a second. So it needs to look like this, like they're facing each other. See? Now you go and you stitch on that mark that you did. Back stitch, of course. It looks a little weird, like it doesn't make any sense, but it's going to work out just fine. So you back stitch and you go all the way to the end, and back stitch all the way at the end again, and then repeat the process for the other one. So pretty much instead of sewing 4 different gussets, you're sewing 2, and that will make your bag more secured. So watch how everything works out. It's going to be just fine. It's a little scary at first when you're doing it like for the first time, but it's fine. It'll work out. And of course, we have to trim the excess. However, we should always check before we trim, because after you trim it, that's it. There's no going back. So I try to find that opening that I left for like the 3 inches in the lining so that I can turn the bag and make sure everything worked out fine. And I recommend you do that, especially if you're doing this kind of gussets the way I'm doing it right now. See, I had to open it a little bit because I left it too small, the opening to turn the bag. And then I grab one of the corners and I turn it. Bring it out. And like I was saying, if you're doing it for the first time, I highly recommend to check it before you trim those little tails. But in this case, I think it worked out just fine. Let's see how it turns out. I did it a while ago, so I forgot how I made this, how I turned it. I love this way of doing the gusset. See? I just love it because it looks so professional. It does not detach from the main bag. It's just very nicely done like this. I recommend you do it. And then I just dig in there, find my little tails, and I trim it off. So look how nice it looks now. And see, that's what I was telling you about earlier. If I would have made a bigger gusset, then you cannot see that yellow part, which is the base of the bag. And look at how nice them corners look. And the inside of the bag, which is the lining, is attached to your outside of the bag. So it looks nice. Now you give it a nice little press. And then we are going to go ahead and look inside. See? It just looks nice. It won't be sagging and your lining is not going to be all over the place. I know I tell you this, I've been mentioning this quite a lot because I personally do not like when my lining is so floppy inside the bag. Then I grab my, the gussets, I dig them out and I trim them off. And then we have to continue with the next step. There I am, struggling to get them gussets out. And make sure that when you trim them, you're not trimming any other part of your bag. You're just trimming the two gussets, which is actually 4 because you saw them together. You grab that other one. And this machine is good enough that you can sew through all those layers with no problem. Right there I have the layer of the lining, the outside fabric, and the 2 interfacing for each. And the machine has no issue whatsoever going through all those layers. I love my Juki. So as you can see, I turned the bag over and this is the top of the bag. And I'm having a little bit of trouble pressing it so that it can look nice and neat. But I realized after making a few of these bags that if I put a piece of interface on the edge, it looks absolutely amazing when you turn the bag over and you don't have any issues. It looks nice and neat and it's extremely secured. So on the other video that I make about the string bags, I'm going to make a different one, but it's going to be with those tips that I found along the way that work for me and that makes the bag look a lot neater. So stay tuned for the other string bag. If you see another one with the string bag, it's because it has the different things that I found that work much better and you get a better result. And it also makes your life a lot easier when you are sewing the rest of the things that you need to sew, which is the part that has the little string, and just pressing it all together. When the bag is completely done, it just looks so much professional. And now we're going to top stitch it. I use these other Juki that I have to do the top stitching because I can remove the sleeve and just leave this and put my back, like as you can see right there. And it's a lot easier than doing it on the other Juki. But the other Juki is a better machine than this Juki, in my opinion, for what I use. This one has a lot of different stitches, but it doesn't sew through so many layers. It struggles with a lot of layers, but it has a lot of stitches that you can use for many other different things. So I'm doing the top stitch on this little bag. And now to the next step. For the handles, I did 15 inches long and 2.5 inches wide, and that is the interfacing, and you can pick the fabric of your choice. I've already made my handles, and I wanted to show you that this line goes 1/4 inch from the top, and then the line where the other line on the bottom goes 1.5 inch from the top line. And if you see closely, I did a little stitch right there so that way the fabric won't come out when you pull in the strings. So I just placed it this way on the sewing machine, and then I did like about an inch stitching right there in that little edge. That way that fabric is secure. And now I go ahead and mark the center for my handles, and I'm going to do 1 inch out from the center to place my handles on each side. So 1 inch on the right side, 1 inch on the left side, and then my little handles are going to be placed like this. My handles are going pretty much 2 inches apart from each other. You can make yours wider. As you can see, I haven't stitched yet the encase of the strings. I left that for after I attach my handles. However, you can do it right after you do the top stitching on the top of the bag, and you can just stitch around on those other two lines. For the handle tabs, all you do is get a little piece of scrap, put some interfacing on it, fold all four corners, and then put your handle in it before you sew it. I'm going to be showing a little clip from a different bag that I made. Alright, so this is the little tab I'm going to put on my handle right here, but I have to press it so that it looks like this. So press 1/4 inch on the edges, and then I go and put it like this and stitch it to my bag. Okay, we're going to put one of the handles. I already put one, so now I'm going to put the other one. Get my little tab, put my little center the strap in there, and then that's the little mark I made. Hold it with one of these big old clips. Then put it over here without sewing anything other than your strap. And I start from the top so I can secure this part. Make sure it's all the way down and that it's straight. I'm sewing right on the line, almost the previous stitch line. Now do a line across. And another one. And that's it. That's the way they look. And I put my tab, my label, because I forgot to put it in here. Okay, now we're going back to the original bag. I just show you how the strap or the handle is attached with another project that I had in another video that I had recorded. But we're going back to this tutorial. So I went and got a strip that I had cut earlier, and it's the width of the fabric. I folded it in half, and now I'm going to cut it to 1 1/4. That's going to be the strings that we're going to be pulling to close the bag. It's going to be extremely thin because there's going to be 4 of them in there, because we're going to fold it like this, in half, 1/4, and then another little piece, and then we're going to press it. So I have this thing that is to make bias tape that is supposed to work good for this. This one is 1 1/4. I think you're supposed to cut it in an angle, but I don't want to cut it in an angle because I want to use the whole thing. And you take it out like this. And you get your 1 1/4, your little pieces that you need. It's pretty handy. It makes it so much easier. Gotta keep it straight. This one is a little crooked. We gotta fix that. Okay, so after we have already pressed both of our strips for the string, we are going to go ahead and stitch them. And we just go to town and stitch all the way through until we have both of them done. And then we are going to fit it through the little opening. I have to actually sew that little opening first before I put it in through there. Now that I have attached my handles and I've already sewn my strings, I am sewing the 2 lines that I have drawn in there to encase the strings. Now we are going to put them in the bag with this tool. So this tool opens like this. You put it right here and you push it down and you stick it in here. The straps are very thin and this opening is pretty wide, so it shouldn't have any problems opening and closing. You put it all the way through. Still a few threads. Put it all the way through. And it needs to come out the same side that it went in. Get them over here. Has a seam there we gotta work around. Retouch it, make sure that it's not twisted. And then do the other one the same way and make the little tabs. I made this little thing. I went and looked up the gourmet quilter. She has a really nice tutorial on how to make the little flower. I did mine by machine except for this little part. She does it by hand. So you make the little tube, and then on mine I just went and put my two little pieces that will be here like this, the two ends, and I stitch, and then I turned it like that, and then I just stitch, and it came out really cute. So if you want to see how she does it, go to her channel, The Gourmet Quilter. She has been doing all kinds of nice things for a very long time. And now I'm going to put this, since we're going to bring it over here, we're going to put it on this side. That was so cute. That was the best idea. Making that. I'll show you how I made it, but she really has a good explanation on how it's made. I got a 3-inch piece of fabric like she said, and I folded it. I stitched. Well, you gotta go check it out. You gotta go to her channel. She has a really good explanation. So all I did was top stitch it, flip it over, and then turn it in on the both corners and stitch by hand that little opening so that way you don't see the raw edge inside the little flower. And anybody can do the stitching. I don't have a lot of practice hand stitching. This was easy because it's just a little, like a quarter or like a half an inch that you have to stitch, and it makes the little bag look so cute. I love the way it turned out, and I hope you give it a try. If you do, send me a Instagram. Do a hashtag on Instagram. This little bag is going to be available on Etsy as a set. It's going to have the this bag is going to have the mini mighty one, and it's going to have a medium size, like for makeup and things like that. I'll put a picture at the end so you can see. But as you can see, you can use it like this, or you can close it up. It's just adorable. I love how cute these string bags are and how useful they are. Look how cute it looks. And it's sturdy. The handles are sturdy. The strings are sturdy. And even them little tags are, it's going to be so very difficult to pull those off. I think it came out really nice. They're unique, one of a kind, because you know how quilters make fabrics and then they discontinue the fabrics? And so these two fabrics are amazing. I'm going to put on the bottom. I had a hard time finding them because I had like the bundle, but I really like the little flowers. And so the fact that I put a different color on the top also makes it unique. And I'll put some pictures now. Thank you so much for watching. You see how professional it looks? And when you turn the bag, that is so nice and crisp when you do that top stitch. Just give it a try. You won't regret it.